Well, hello, hello. This is Karin Zoe Lee, and you're listening to Lotus Moon Productions. Welcome to LMP Music. Whatever the music, whatever the tune, we're here to learn, discuss, and promote the independent music scene. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the next 45 minutes as Shugo Hanasaki tackles the music industry one artist at a time.
Welcome back to the music side of Lotus Moon Productions. Today we're welcoming one hell of a talented man. He's been releasing music for over a decade in many different forms. Projects such as Aries, Visionary. Over the past 6 years, he's been releasing music under ThrillKiller with his album Showdown, San Francisco Moto, and his most recent single, Digital Desperado, as well as his two other projects entitled MEGATRONIX and Power Rob, which gives you a hint on who is going to be on the podcast today. MEGATRONIX released their debut album in 2018 called Power Wave, and Power Rob just released an EP in October as well, and collaborated with Scott from Elevate the Sky entitled So Alive. And if releasing music wasn't enough for this man, he's also a vocal teacher, an actor in theater, and most recently was nominated in 2018 for Best Rock and Best Funk Act under the Maryland Music Awards. With so many accomplishments and an amazing voice, I am absolutely honored to welcome Rob Bradley to the podcast. How's it going, man?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Not doing too bad. Just having a pretty laid back day. Can't complain.
Yeah, it's been a pretty cool day for me too. Started off watching Griff stream there on Twitch this morning. That was an awesome start to the
cool.
day. And, yeah, it was pretty good. A few people are in there, and man, that guy can DJ.
Oh, cool. You got to check out the next one.
Yeah, it's on. I believe it's every Saturday at 8 a.m. my time, which would be 7 a.m. your time. So it's pretty early on Saturdays. But I felt like a kid again. I mean, I had breakfast. I was 8 a.m. I was in a blanket fort, and I was watching Griff.
Oh, that's cool. That sounds pretty fun. Yeah.
So synthwave on Saturday mornings. What better way?
Right.
So throughout the podcast, as I always start the podcast stuff. As I always start the podcast, pardon me. At the beginning, I love finding out where all of this talent came from every artist that comes on. I mean, you've accomplished so much, as I mentioned, over the past decade. So if you could tell me, Rob, what inspired you to become an artist? I mean, did you have a musical background or family influences growing up? Like, what continues to motivate you each year?
Oh, it's a great question. I got into music. Well, I guess I became a music fan since probably as long as I can remember. I'd say that I started out getting into stuff like I think the first cassette I owned was either Queen's Greatest Hits or Classic Queen, or I think it was one of the Aerosmith albums. It was, I believe, Nine Lives, I think, or one of the other ones. But I started with that. And then in middle school, I started getting obsessed with Bad Religion. I learned a lot about how good vocal melodies are composed, how to build not just good hooks, but also how to keep, the difference between good lyrics and good melodies, and how to keep from either having lyrics that are too over fluffed up or too wordy without hurting the hook, or how to make good melodies still fit otherwise pretty insightful topics. So that helped a lot, kind of getting me more sparked into music. But then I really started getting into it when around high school I started getting into old heavy metal bands like Kiss, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, those kind of guys, Dio. And then I got into high school choir, and that was really only because I had to get an elective and I didn't want to take gym, and so I took choir. And I started enjoying it. I was told I was pretty good at it, and so I found something I, could feel valuable doing. I put out some stuff with a band I was in back in high school that not too proud about. However, it would be nice to show some students it if I didn't have all the copies destroyed. So that got me started at least. But I started becoming, I guess, more of a vocal technician after that, when I started taking vocal lessons. And around that time I started collaborating with what became Aries, and we took a bit of a break after the first year. I was trying to find the right members and all that, and I got to do some power metal with some other guys I worked with. We got to play with Stradivarius, Doro, and then after about a year working with them, I brought Aries back, and that's when we had really what I felt was our best run. We opened for Sebastian Bach twice. We played with also Doro. We got to play with Michelangelo Badio, Metal Church, Symphony X. Had two really fun nights with the Proto Men. And then at which point it was around the second run of Aries when I got dragged into the world of rock operas, and that was not something I was initially training to do. I didn't know they existed, but inadvertently it most certainly helped me for that. But yeah, that's, I guess, a very short answer about at least the early years of how all that began. And yeah, it's been a trip.
Well, some great shout outs though for some bands. And I mean, it sounds like one hell of like a life so far, man. And I mean, we're going to be diving into your music history, but one thing I'm very much interested in, your vocalist career. I mean, it must be really, really humbling to be able to teach so many people to sing. I mean, what made you want to be a vocal coach?
Oh, it's a great question. I find myself, when I'm interested in something, I always find it's just very enjoyable to share what I've learned, especially if someone's trying to, like understand more about it or get better at it. Everything from like, for instance, I'm a really big fighting game fan, and so I love like going over tech with people that are trying to get into a game. And the same was with singing. Like I loved studying it and obsessing about it. Everything from DVDs to books, and picking my first coach's brain about everything he did when he was touring and all that, and my second coach, all that. And so I just find that I like sharing what I obsess about because it's fun. And I think one of the most enjoyable things about being a coach is just seeing surprise on a singer's face when they kind of unlock something they didn't know they had, or when something that seemed very hard to them is made easy. That's always like one of the best things to feel, is just to give that to a student, because when I grew up with singing, I had a lot of people that were quite negative about it, that were pretty aggressive at times. And I wanted to make sure that when I became a coach, I wanted to give a path to future vocalists that I would work with that was a lot of positive reinforcement, and they viewed their voice as levels of good. For instance, it's never like, oh, you did something bad, or like, you made a mistake. It's more, okay, these things were really good. Now we can make it even better if we add this to it. And having someone have that as their bedrock as a vocalist can really build some excellent singers. And it took me a long time to have that mentality myself. Like, everybody makes mistakes as vocalists, but nowadays, if I make one, or if I do something I'm not quite happy with, I don't usually get like mortified about it, but it's more like, okay, cool. Well, what caused those moments I was not as, happy about, and how can we make them better? So if anything, as a coach, it's a combination of my desire to share what I'm passionate about, combined with I just find it satisfying to give that kind of an experience to a singer where their foundation for a voice is a positive one, and it allows them to let go of a lot of the anxieties that holds most singers back, because it is a scary thing to do. Some people would never be caught dead singing on stage. So then I find that very fulfilling.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like you're not only passionate about mastering your craft, but you're also passionate about helping others master their craft. I mean, even a couple of months ago, you and I had a little trial vocal session, and
yeah, that's fun.
I had a lot of fun, and I recommend anybody who's listening to get in touch with Rob Bradley and get set up if you want to learn how to sing. And I mean, and I definitely want to get on board eventually once I can get my finances stable.
Sure.
Because you're incredible, man. I mean, your voice is absolutely out of this world. The vocal notes that you can hit, I mean, I want to say congratulations for putting so much effort into mastering your craft, but I don't know if that's the right words.
It means a lot. I love this art. I love doing it, and here's the capabilities of someone's voice. People just tend to undercount them. a lot of the stuff a lot of stuff I add in songs these days, there was no way I could have done that in my first year or two of lessons. It just would have been possible. And so it's very exciting to show people that too. And I'm always working on it every year of trying to find something else to build on. And I'm glad you enjoy what I've done so far.
Yeah, I mean, and we're definitely going to dive into what you've done so far as well. I mean, throughout the podcast, we'll be sharing track previews, and we'll be discussing your most recent career, as well as your 3 projects entitled ThrillKiller MEGATRONIX, and of course, your solo career, Power Rob. So we'll start with ThrillKiller, and from what I've gathered, ThrillKiller is the adventures of Rex Razor as he battles to save time itself. Is that right?
That's the music film series, yeah. It's been the Rex Razor stuff was that was added, I would say, about 2 years into the band's existence. ThrillKiller has been an absolute treat building. The way that band was created was Aries had just ended. We called it quits in 2015 after our second night working with Bach, and I, at the time, was starting to flirt with the idea of writing not just the vocal lines, but the music itself. I started studying how Michael Jackson built a lot of his music, and I found out that he didn't play an instrument to do it. He didn't write music. He did none of that. He would just take a click track and sing all the parts to the click track and then show it to musicians, and they did it that way. And so I gave that a crack. And so the first few demos, probably for the first album, was me just singing, the bass line, the guitar line, and doing a little bit of like beat with my voice and stuff. And I would then show it to my guitar player, and, we would build them that way. And eventually I wrote a song called The King of 1984, which has some of the only instruments I've played on an album, which is the keys on that one. But we were working on getting our first music video, and the director, we were initially going to do our first single, Passion Killer, which was out at the time for about maybe 2 years. But I showed him The King of 1984, and he was like, this is the one. We got to make a music video for this. And The King of 84 was written as obviously it has some 80s elements in it and had a little bit of synthwave that I threw into some of the keys and elements to it like that. But lyrically, it was actually supposed to be more of a sinister kind of like Big Brother kind of concept underneath the hood of this really catchy, synth rock song. And so we initially, when he asked to do it, he's like, "Hey, let's do King of 84." My first reaction was like, "Dude, I don't know if we have the finances for 1984." But we decided to go with a more of a traditional kind of like bar fight kind of sequence, which is what happened with 84. And when it came time for San Francisco Moto about a year later, I decided that since people liked the first one so much, that what if we actually gave a name to that guy and gave like a job for him and started making a storyline. And that's when Rex Razor was created. And with the most recent one, Digital Desperado, that might be the end of it. I just I don't know how we could top it. That in every one of them, I know it gave me the motivation to bust my butt physically. Like I know over the course of King of 84, I'd say I put about 30 to 40 pounds of muscle on since the first one onto the final one, just to make sure it looked as authentic as possible. I dropped about 40 pounds of weight before Digital Desperado. It was a fun goal. I know that all of us worked hard. We had a heck of a team behind us, and I got a lot of good breaks from my rock opera people. The set for Digital Desperado was actually the same set that I did this really awesome performance with the Baltimore Rock Opera Society. It was this big event in 2016 where we got to work with the concert artists of Baltimore, which is effectively a gigantic professional symphony. And I just got lucky that I could use the place again. And so after all those strings pulled, that's how the Rex Razor saga was created. But at its core, ThrillKiller is an evolving rock band. We have new music on the horizon, and it's turning more into more. It's becoming more synth. With King of 84, I wanted us to become more of a synth rock band or synthwave band, but I don't think we were ready for that transformation yet. But with the new stuff, it's definitely got a lot more stuff that retrowave people are gonna like. But yeah, there's some fun stuff coming out soon for that one.
I can't wait, man. I mean, your 2018 EP there, San Francisco Moto, like we were just talking about. I mean, King of 1984. But when you showed me those three videos on YouTube, I love them, man. I love the
Thanks.
series. I love the adventure vibe. I love the story on where it's going. And honestly, man, I hope there's a fourth story. I really, really do, because it's so much fun. Like I love all the puns and all the videos. I mean, and you can't forget the coolest classes in all of time and space.
Yeah, Pit Vipers. Those guys are so cool too. They hooked us up. Those shades were on the house. I told them what we were up to. I showed them video too, and they sent them over. And I think between Greg, the director, and I think we're fresh out of puns. Like I don't think I have any more time puns left. We threw everything we had at the script for some of those. Like I remember when I read Clock Him Up, that was not one of mine. That was probably my favorite of the puns. Was Clock Him Up. I forgot which ones were mine, but yeah, we definitely had fun with that one. But yeah, ThrillKiller, we got a couple covers we're working on. We're recording some more stuff tomorrow. But yeah, we've been transforming like crazy. We got a brand new lineup. We got a new bass player. Sebastian he's on lead guitar, and he's actually got a new pedal we've been working with, the new ways to basically make his guitar turn into a live guitar synth. So yeah, we've been just really evolving the band behind the scenes, and yeah, it basically there's some weeks that are ThrillKiller weeks, there's some weeks that are Megatronics weeks, some weeks that are Power Rob weeks, and this is a heck of a team. Going on tour with them was we toured actually late 2018, but that still was one of my favorite live experiences was going on the road with ThrillKiller.
That's awesome, man. It's like, now how did that story come together? I mean, you guys put a lot of effort into Rex Razor and having him team up with his nemesis, and like, I mean, I don't want to spoil too much for anybody who hasn't seen it, but I definitely want people to go check it out. I definitely suggest people. But tell me, like how did this character come to be?
Well, Rex Razor, it's no surprise that there are some of the more staple retro kind of videos that inspired it, like, Blood Dragon, Kung Fury. Like actually, Rex is wearing a Kung Fury shirt as a little nod in the first one. But one of my favorite, there are two other things that were not quite as obvious that were giant inspirations to the show. One of them, which was more the Chief, which was Less Action Hero. Like I knew that when we did it, if we were going to go time cop, we needed the irascible police chief, and thankfully there was an actor that I worked with in prog metal Sweeney Todd named Patrick. He played the judge during that, and he did such an effective job that I was like, dude, we got our chief. And so the chief was a mixture of Last Action Hero and one of my favorite cop parodies to ever exist, which is Assy McGee. I think Assy McGee has some of the best cop puns I've ever heard. One of my favorite comedic setups is how he will create like pandemonium and like just be the worst cop possible, like just destroying city blocks, like killing people and stuff. And then at the end of the episode, he gets talked down to by the chief about everything he did wrong. But then there's always that moment where he's like, "But how did you know that guy was wanted? This. And she asks you, I had a hunch, and like makes everything better. And so like I knew that if we did that with Rex, we had to have something horrible off panel that like Rex did. Like for instance, how they allude to the fact that Rex went to another timeline, and then now that timeline knows about aliens 80 years too early. But apparently some farmer that's wanted in different time streams, so everything's okay. So like that was one of my favorite setups. It's like how you take a vacation. I heard about your stunt in Roswell, and now they know about aliens 80 years too early. But how would you know that farmer was wanted? That is a direct Assy McGee setup. Like that is totally something that would happen in that show. So there's a mixture of those things. As for the other aesthetics, it really like the outfits for the villains was a lucky break. I had some friends from the Baltimore Rock Opera Society that were in contact with a costume company that had to get rid of a warehouse full of professionally made 80s sci-fi costumes made for a professional theater show. They just had to get rid of them. And so Sebastian and I just showed up with the truck in my car, and we just started grabbing as many as we could.
That's
and,
awesome.
Yeah, and that's that's the bad guy costumes, and also the outfit for Ortega. Like we actually used to wear those outfits and call ourselves, like, for Halloween events and stuff, it would be what we call Super ThrillKiller, where we have like the ridiculous, crazy outfits from that. And the one I would wear was, in my opinion, I think it was the main characters from whatever show that was. They asked me to not say what it was. So I don't know if that's still that deal. They still want me to hold it up, so I can't say what it was officially. But I think it was the main characters. And so once we were working on number 2, Sebastian, he was like, hey, man, I don't want to be in this one, but could I want to be the villain in the next one. And I was like, okay, if you want to make the commitment, we're going to do some training together and stuff. I think I got something for you. And so that's how we made Ortega. Of course, there's if you look at we have little videos that take place in between the music videos.
Yes.
There's no surprise that old school wrestling was definitely an influence on one of them. That was a tremendous amount of fun to do that. But yeah, those are some of the big influences for the Rex Razor saga. I have an idea. I mean, long story short, at the moment, all I can think of is Rocky 4 in space. Like, that's all I've got left. And like, I don't know if we might be able to pull it off. Part of me wants to make a cold opening where it's just Rex and the Chief, and Rex is like, so let me get this straight. I got a box, an intergalactic time-dimensional supervillain for the heavyweight time-dimensional boxing championship of the time stream in order to save everybody. And it cuts like a Chief who's kind of like, he looks like almost embarrassed that this is the plot, and like with his head down. Yeah. All right, hit the music, strap me up. Like, just training montage begins. That's like all I've got at the moment. Like, just so preposterous.
There's something special here, man. I mean, that's why I hope. That's why I hope it continues. You've created something so special with ThrillKiller. It has to continue.
I love working with the project. The guys are a heck of a team. It's when it comes to writing music, they have complete faith in what I'm writing. So like sometimes they'd be a little bit curious. Like when I wrote The King of 84, I know Sebastian, we were actually at I was visiting my parents' house, and they were hanging out with me, and I remember I showed them the hook, and they were like, so they said it's called The King of 84, and I was like, yeah, and I was like, here, play this, and I sung the guitar line, and then they played it, and I was like, watch this, and I sung the hook over top, and it lit up, and I was like, see, it's when you read the title, it's a little weird, but trust me, it's gonna sound cool. And so like, there's a lot of moments like that, or like when we did Moto, it was the most funky thing we had. Like Showdown was a much more of a rock pop album, and they were unsure about it until they heard the finished song after we left the studio. So after those were done, it's been kind of a thing where like they've been pretty open-minded. I've got a song I'm collaborating with Sebastian on that is easily our biggest song in terms of size. I think it's going to clock in at about 9.5 minutes, and that's what we're working on tomorrow. But yeah, ThrillKiller is great. I think it's one of the most versatile projects I've had the pleasure of working with.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure watching them as well. And I mean, you released Digital Desperado as your most recent single, and we're definitely going to dive into that.
Sure.
We're going to learn all about Digital Desperado. We're going to share a preview of it, and then maybe we'll discuss the inspiration behind it.
Sure.
All right. So we'll share a 45-second clip of Digital Desperado by ThrillKiller, and then we'll dive into the song. Here we go.
Drunk. I need a fix from the mountaintops. We pass the X and the wrist to scratch to beat my blood. We raise our hands, it's time to judge. We hold them close, the lights upon us. A sycophantic joke is for the bold and for the cold. The train keeps running, can't feel it.
So getting back to the video and the song, I mean, as I said, I loved everything about these episodes you have created, but I mean, we kind of know where Rex Razor may go from here with the space championship or whatever.
That's all I've got. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rocky 4. I've been at the gym busting my butt for something coming up, but like it's also every time I train, it's like a long-term thing to try to hopefully get to the Rocky 4 shape to justify Rocky 4 in space. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's gotta happen as I mentioned. But I mean, writing the lyrics behind these stories, like how do you come up with the story behind? I mean, there's the King of '84 was amazing. That was like I showed a few friends that video and they were like, oh my god, this is so awesome.
Thank you.
And like, you know, Moto was really good too. But I mean, getting like behind the inspiration of each story, writing the lyrics, and I mean, where does that all come from? You're one creative dude.
Thank you. Well, it depends on the song, you know. The Rex Razor story doesn't really have too much to do with the songs themselves, aside from just loose kind of inspiration. Like, for instance, Moto obviously was a character that was created after the song was done to give justification for the song's title. To be over top of that, I when it comes to the Rex Razor stuff, I try to make the universe itself. The music it fits the vibe of how the video is going, but I try to not put too much of an overbloated story into the words. Some songs are very cynical. King of '84 is a very cynical song, but it's still done in a way that I try to keep it. Try to keep it fun. But under the hood, it's actually quite critical of a couple things. For instance, King of '84, it's basically about the concept of if a Big Brother police state were to arrive, based on this time frame we're currently in, one of the best ways it would accomplish that goal, if that truly was their objective, would be through using social media to make people drunk with their own narcissism, to make them so distracted from the world around them and make them so obsessed with their own little sandbox that they're in of dopamine that they're unaware of what's going on around them. And that's really the point of King of 1984. That's why it's like trying to hype up the listener on the hook. And in the verses, it's the person who's noticing the world is changing but is not sure what exactly is going on. So that's what that one is about. San Francisco Moto is a love letter to 80s and 70s funk. That's literally what that song is. There's little nods to some of the big funk bands I liked a lot. There are some pretty obvious ones to the Gap Band that show up every once in a while. One of my favorite ones that inspired some of the writing in it was the Brothers Johnson. I think that they are criminally underrated. And Digital Desperado, well, what's funny is all three songs kind of came out of nowhere, at least in terms of the foundation of each one. I was driving to my studio to teach, and the hook for King of '84 hit me. And so I just got my voice recorder and I sung it. And then I figured it out on piano. Moto was funny. I was dating someone for a long time who was she's a practicing Christian. And I'm not, but I was supporting her by going to church with her. And a lot of times, you know, when I'd be at church, my mind would just be, you know, coming up with ideas. And all the main parts for Moto happened while I was at Mass. Like just happening in my head. And then I asked her, I was like, I told her, I was like, I gotta leave. And she's like, what's going on? I gotta record something. So I sung all the parts to my phone's recorder, and that's how the foundation of the song was made. Then later, as I had that hook, just that song just staying on my phone, the title was because I had a dream one night, and there was a song in the dream that I liked a lot, and I was like, man, I really want to cover that song sometime. And the title to that song was San Francisco Moto, and I woke up and I realized it didn't exist. And I was like, well, all right, let's find a song that it fits on, and it fit the new one quite well. So that's how that happened. Digital Desperado, I was on a date with somebody, and we were at my place, and they had just fallen asleep, and I was about to go to sleep. And a lot of times when I'm in between being awake and asleep, the kind of like sort of dream state, yeah, my subconscious just sends ideas to me when it's like that. And so the main riff for Digital Desperado and the pre-chorus riff both just hit me out of the blue. And so I remember I snuck away from my bed to my bathroom, and I quietly sung the parts to my voice recorder. Then I sent them to Sebastian, and I was like, yo, check this melody out. He's like, that's really cool. I was like, yeah, I think we got a cool song here. And so it was around the time we were deciding to make a third Rex Razor video. And I realized the riff for that was big enough to be the finale, if we did go for that being the finale. Lyrically, it's pretty critical. With Digital Desperado, it's about it's kind of about how people try to get. It's almost like people they get drunk on witch hunts, basically, like how people almost like need villains, and not to say that it isn't right or isn't wrong to call out injustices, but it's about how sometimes mobs, like I remember we had some people that would get on, like I've seen people that were completely innocent being hunted down by friends of mine who were just so committed to whatever cause they were taking part in just because they looked like a dude in a photo. And so that song's a lot about that, where it's also about how your identity on the internet is slowly kind of being whittled away, or at least your privacy. And so that's the culmination of a lot of those thoughts in that song. So yeah, that's really that. I think, yeah, that's pretty much some of the main stuff for that one. Musically, I would say that it's got a mixture of some video game songs. Gambit theme from Marvel vs. Capcom 1 shows itself in there. There's a little bit of Big Blue, I've noticed, from F-Zero. And a little bit of Mega Man, but Mega Man sneaks its way into tons of my stuff. Like just little melodic ideas of Mega Man. I'll listen to the songs later and be like, oh yeah, it's a little bit of that in there. But yeah, video game music is a big influence. I find that when I compose songs on FL Studio and I'll send them to my band, sometimes they're like, dude, this is like a really good chiptune song. I'm like, oh cool, that's a compliment. I like that stuff.
I love video game music. There's so much good. It's just gotten better over the years. I mean, I love, Super Nintendo, old school PlayStation. Even Nintendo's got some great stuff. But I mean, now that we're PlayStation, PS4, Xbox, it doesn't whatever. There's a lot of good recent stuff out there too.
Yeah, big fan of the style. I listen to it all the time.
Sweet, man. Sweet. Yeah, I have a collection on my computer of a bunch of songs from favorite games that I like. And it's always nice going back to them once in a while.
Yeah, cool.
Now, switching gears, and by the way, thank you so much for telling me all about ThrillKiller. I mean, I loved...
my pleasure.
Yeah, it was amazing learning about that, and I hope the audience enjoyed that too. But switching gears over to a darker, more powerful type of style, and I know you know where I'm going with this, and that's why I want to dive into Megatronics. Now, this project consists of synthwave, but it's much more than that. It's when synthwave and power metal collide, and what an incredible album Powerwave is. I mean, in 2018, you absolutely smashed it by releasing Powerwave, which from start to finish is absolutely fantastic. I mean, this project consists of you and Robbie Whiplash, also known as Dark Rob. Is that correct?
Correct. Robbie and I, we definitely go back. He does all the music in Megatronics, and I do all the vocal lines and write my parts. And so it's pretty straightforward.
Now, what brought this incredible combination together? I mean, like you just mentioned, you guys have gone way back. I mean, he's more of a rocker and you're more like that synthwave, and you've combined it together. But I mean, you've gone way back. Where did this idea of Megatronics and like Powerwave come from?
Well, with Robbie, we used to take part in an event called the 98 Rock All-Star Jam. And it was I guess quarterly or semi-quarterly event that happened for about, I think, 5 years. And whenever that would happen, basically, they would take a lot of the top local artists and their different bands, and the members from those bands would get together and make super groups and then do cover songs, usually for charity. And Robbie and I had already been in the scene at the time, but we really started working together in a lot of those collaborations. For instance, I know he played, I think, bass on a cover of Love Gun by Kiss. He did drums on Cult of Personality, Rainbow in the Dark. And so we just kept finding ourselves working together a lot and getting to know each other.
The song Cult of Personality?
Yeah, Living Color.
Oh, what? I didn't know that. That's so cool.
Yeah, that I believe, if I recall correctly, I think it was the guitar player for Sons of the Radio, I think, was on that one. The guitar player for Aries, Sean, was on bass, and then Robbie was on drums, and I was on vocals. And so you can see like every one of them was like different lineups and stuff. And around that time, he expressed interest in being in San Francisco Moto. And so I know he had some experience on doing video and stuff, and episodic shows and stuff he had done. So he had experience being an actor. And I know that he had experience being bad guys, and so that's why he made him snide. But anyways, he sent me music. He was like, "Hey man, we should work together on something." And I think he had noticed some of the '80s stuff I was doing, and he was getting into doing that himself. And he sent me some music. And it's funny, when he first contacted me about doing a synthwave project, I thought it was gonna be some poppy stuff, because I had expressed to some of my musician friends that while I do metal from time to time, I had felt I was kind of growing away from it. Like I felt I'd done, quote unquote, done my time. I'd done 2 progressive metal rock operas. I did a power metal rock opera. I got best actor in a musical from DC Metro Theater Arts. I did all this stuff in different metal projects, and I just felt like I wanted to try other stuff. And so when he hit me up, I really thought it was gonna be some like dreamwave stuff. And so I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. I want to get into synthwave. And he sent me what then became I Fight Time. And while it did have metal, what interested me the most was it was just the instrumental was just a good song. And so that was the main reason why I was down for Megatronics, even though I had done all this metal over the years. And I was kind of interested in not trying it again, but it was such a good composition that I was like, okay, let's do it. And after we let I Fight Time come out, we got into this competition from Recall FM called the Battle of the Producers 2018. And he entered us. I'd done competitions for music before, and they never really ended well. So I usually didn't like doing them. And so he said, when he brought us into it, I was like, yeah, man, I'm down, but I'm not going to stress out about it. Because I know that if I got involved, I would get super, aggressive about it, and I'd want us to win. And I just didn't have the energy to do that. And so he did all the work getting us into that competition. And then lo and behold, we win with one song, which was I Fight Time. And so we kind of had this opinion where it was like, if enough people are interested, we'll make more songs. And so more people were interested. So we released It Spoke to Us. I think Line of Fire was released after that. I forgot how many were released before the album came out. But then eventually one day, I know I was in the middle of, what was it? Yeah, I was preparing for my last rock opera, which is called Space Kumite, which was a synthwave, synth rock opera with the Baltimore Rock Opera Society. And I knew that we had to knock out the new album. Like, I knew that people wanted it, and Robbie had the music. And so we were just like, what do you got left? Let's just book it. And so we booked the sessions, and then bang, we released Power Wave, and it's done pretty well. Especially that cover we got, Burning in the Third Degree. That and the album, it's been the first time I've been in a band where all of the band expenses are paid for by the band, and it's because people just liked it that much. So yeah, it's been fun. I mean, I know that we challenge ourselves as writers a lot. We are the new EP we're working on. I think it could lay claim to the title of the best stuff we've had yet. That'll be up for the listeners, to decide. But we got one more song I'm tracking right now. It's called Final Flash. It's based on Vegeta.
Nice.
It's gonna be massive. We have that, and we have a music film we're working on right now. We've released the song track titles, so I can talk about them now. One of them is for a song that we completed called There Can Be Only One, which is obviously a Highlander song. And we're doing a full music video for that. We already have our swords. We got our locations. We are working on making it a legit, it's almost like Cyberpunk meets Highlander kind of video we're working on. And yeah, the new release is called Limit Breaker. We're working with TW1 Records for that, and it's been a pleasure working with those guys. But it's the first time we have a label working with us on something coming out. But yeah, big stuff. We're actually working on a tour right now for the fall for Limit Breaker. And Robbie is a tremendously talented guy and really good teammate. And the guy even put together a custom arcade 1-up cabinet with our faces on it and everything to bring on the road. It's custom, has all the games and everything in it, all MAME. He's an incredibly handy guy.
That's incredible.
Yeah, he's a great dude.
I'm not even gonna lie, mega Dragon Ball Z fan.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get along then. I used to have a YouTube series where I would talk about some of the more obscure elements of Dragon Ball, and I used to compete in the collectible card game. I went to the World Tournament in Ohio. I used to host a league around here. I'm in actually I have certain suppliers for my SH Figure Arts collection. I run a 13,000 member Dragon Ball group. So yeah, I'm definitely a big fan.
Man, that's awesome. That's sweet, man.
Fun stuff.
I honestly could talk about Dragon Ball Z probably all day.
Oh yeah, maybe that's our own episode about that.
Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super. I try not to talk about Dragon Ball GT, but you know.
Dude, a couple days ago, broke my heart. I was playing Dokkan Battle, and I saw they just announced that they finally are going to release the Super Saiyan 4 Figure Arts Goku action figure, and I've been dying to get my hands on that forever. I even have a custom Gogeta Figure Arts made by a guy I had ordered in. I missed the pre-order. That has been one of the biggest heartbreaks of the last few weeks for me. My Figure Arts collection is massive. I have so many characters that do not exist in the line that I had custom made in the style, so I have them. Like it's a bad addiction.
That's awesome though. I mean, Gogeta's always been my favorite, but that's so cool, and I'm really hoping. I mean, the audience now is probably bored. They're like, stop talking about Dragon Ball Z.
The song will make up for it. Final Flash is a heck of a song.
Yeah, Final Flash. Definitely look forward to Final Flash coming from Megatronics, and let's give the audience a taste of what Megatronics sounds like. And let's share Maverick Hunter. Would that be okay?
Good to me.
Sweet. Here's a 45-second preview of Maverick Hunter off of Megatronics' album Power Wave. Now, could you share the inspiration behind Maverick Hunter and the album itself?
Yeah, so the Power Wave album doesn't necessarily have a specific theme, really. Musically, that's definitely more of a Robbie question. I know he's got a bunch of different influences for his parts in it. For the stuff that I wrote, Maverick Hunter has an interesting story behind it, because it was the only song that, after it was sent to me, we had modified like significantly before I wrote on it. There was a version he sent that was good, but I felt the hook needed to be changed, and we were definitely had a lot of debates about that. And eventually he changed the hook, and that's what was then sent over. And I was literally at the gym when he sent me the final cut. And so I was like lifting weights, and I'm like, trying to find a good topic that fits this kind of like awesome, kind of fist pumping, cyberpunk rock metal stuff. And so I came up, I was like, dude, Mega Man X, like it's such a aesthetic, topic that could fit. And that's literally the hook for Maverick Hunter. I just wrote on the spot, like it just fit. I remember I texted Robbie, and I was like, it's going to be called Maverick Hunter. And he's like, really? You think it's a little on the nose? And I was like, just wait until you hear it sung. And then when he got the cut back, his story on Instagram was just Maverick Hunter in giant letters with all the characters. And I was like, just have faith. It's cool. So yeah, Maverick Hunter, that was definitely, in my opinion, one of the stronger singles off of Power Wave.
Agreed.
It's definitely been one of the big live staples. The crowd seems to really enjoy Maverick Hunter. I also like it too because it's one of the easier songs to sing. It's not quite as ridiculous as It Spoke to Us or I Fight Time, but it's a nice, vocally it's a nice warm-up tune, and musically it's definitely one of my favorites. It's also a good chance for me to whip out. I have an X-Buster I bring on stage, so I use that as like lights and everything on it. So it's the first time I got to bring a cool prop on stage.
That's awesome, man. Maverick Hunter is one of my favorite tracks on that album too, and the album is just, it's brilliant from start to finish. I really do mean that. It's awesome. Like it gets you. I don't even know. It gets you pumped up. It gets you like I mean, you could exercise to hell with that. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Just like go to the gym, put it on, and just go.
That's a lot of Robbie's work. We had a goal, or at least I had a goal that I would kind of push Robbie to kind of aim for, and we started working together to do that, which was I Fight Time did so well that after that song, I wanted us to be able to prove that we could top I Fight Time, or at least we could compete with I Fight Time. And I think we have a couple songs that got close to that mantle, but there was, I don't know how I keep hyping up a song that's not out yet, but both the new songs are worthy of that. I would say Final Flash is potentially the best workout song of our collection yet. So that one might top Maverick Hunter.
Well, I mean, I might be biased because it's Vegeta, but
yeah, it's tough to say. Yeah, Maverick Hunter it's like choose between babies here. It's hard to say, but yeah, Maverick Hunter is one of my favorite workout songs I've had the pleasure of writing on.
I'm sounding like a fanboy here, but I feel the lyric video should just be like an AMV of Vegeta.
That's I think that's where we're headed. So
sweet, there you go.
Yeah, he's not he respects Dragon Ball. He doesn't really watch it much, so he's kind of like, I've given him a list of like notable Vegeta battles for like the video. Like I'm like, hey, this is all the big ones. This is all the best moments. Here's all the best. Like for instance, like for like a big hit, I was like, he said we got to find a moment where Vegeta hits someone really hard. And like my first reaction was Imperfect Cell gut punch right after he transforms. When Vegeta transforms, I was like, that's one right there. So like I started giving a list. So yeah, we're working on that right now. Once it's done, that's totally happening.
That's awesome, man. That is totally awesome. Now jump into the present with Power Up. Get into your solo project. I mean, Bandcamp describes you as bringing a distinct stadium rock quality at the genre of synthwave with your refreshing approach. Some of the most powerful vocals the genre has seen in a long time. And honestly, I could not agree more. I mean, your voice, as I mentioned before, is just incredible. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, back in October 2020, just 4 days before releasing your first EP, you collaborated with Scott from Elevate the Sky, as I mentioned before, with So Alive, which is great. It's one of my favorite tracks of yours. I love listening to it. And I had Elevate the Sky on the podcast back on episode 13 that I highly suggest people check out. And thanks so much, Rob, for putting your heart into that track. I mean, will there be more collaborations with you and Scott?
It's funny. So Alive was an absolute blast working with him on. And after we did that, we immediately started working on what's next. I think I can talk about this. Yeah, I can say that. Okay, we've had a song that we wrote after So Alive.
Okay.
That we think is just an absolute beast of a song. I think it's one of the best ballads I've had the pleasure of being a part of. And that song, for Power Rob, Power Rob is exclusively through Aztec Records, and it's been a lot of fun working with them. The thing with Aztec though is they're very picky about what songs make releases. And every once in a while, there will be a song or two that I'll send them that I really think was going to make it, and they might not quite agree on it. And so there has been one song, it's been this baby of ours that we pitched to Aztec, and they weren't too keen on it. But then I gave them another listen to it, and they're down for it now. So that song is going to make the Power Up album we're working on. There's also some other collaborations with other people I cannot quite announce yet. But there's some of my favorite people in synthwave, and of course, I do have my own compositions I'll be adding to my upcoming album for that as well. But that is very well underway. But yes, to suffice to say, not only are we working together again, I think we have an absolute dynamite song that's just waiting to be released.
Man, I can't wait, man. Scott's an excellent dude.
Yes.
And he makes incredible music. And I mean, you guys coming together, it's like Megatronics, man. It's like a band that has to happen, or collaborations that have to continue, So
yeah,
I'm definitely excited.
Scott's fun. There's a few guys in synthwave that I've been lucky enough to work with where it makes a lot of sense musically. Like there's times where I get very protective if someone changes the music after I've recorded the vocals over top, because I write the vocals specifically over what has been sent to me. Scott's one of the only people that can make a change to a song, and the change after the fact will enhance what I've done. And it's like he kind of gets where I'm writing, I guess melodically, if that's a phrase. But yeah, he's one of the few. There's two synthwave artists that I have had a chance to talk to that are among my favorite, like straight synthwave writers. Robbie obviously is a unique case because he writes synth metal, but he has written other stuff too. But he obviously, there's nobody else that does what he does. But with the other guys, Scott's one of the two in terms of synth pop that I think are my favorite to collaborate with. The other one is on the album. I was actually working with him 2 days ago, so that's definitely happening. I think I can't quite mention him yet, but yeah, there's that. I'm actually going in the studio on Tuesday for Power Rob. I'm going to Tony Corelli's studio. He's the guy that recorded Moto. He recorded Digital Desperado. He recorded Megatronics' vocals. And he's my favorite engineer. So I'll be going in there to do a composition that got the approval, a demo I sent in, of a song that I think is... I guess it's hard to put a phrase in the new composition I wrote. It's like sort of got a Take Me Home Tonight kind of vibe, like Power Rob mixed with a little Eddie Money, and that's what we're working on this week.
Sweet. I can't wait to hear the final product.
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Now getting to that first EP entitled Runaway, which was released, as I said, right after So Alive. I mean, this EP consists of 3 tracks. We have Runaway, Strong, and an amazing cover, man, of Careless Whisper by George Michael. Like, you freaking smashed it. You nailed it. Yeah.
It's also funny thing about the Power Up thing, the Runaway album. That bio was... I usually don't like rewriting about like the qualities of my voice because I like to get other people to kind of make their own minds about it. That was written by the label. I don't usually write bios. I'm like, yeah, I'm this, I'm that. So just as a point out to anyone who's listening, I love my label. I let that up to them to write that part. If I write my other music, I try to point about the music. But just as a side note, so with Power Up album, there's a lot of love in some of those songs. Careless Whisper is actually the second time I've recorded that song for a project. The quarantine was approaching for my area back when we recorded the version you heard. And so I sent the original recorded version, which was a ThrillKiller version that came out about 2018. I sent that to Aztec and I said, hey, I've done this song a million times. If you want to get a guy to do a cover of this, I can just go to the studio right now and not bang this out. We knocked out the vocals to that version of Careless Whisper 15 minutes before lockdowns were official in Maryland. Like that's the time left. I literally left the Deep End studio and that was done. So that was thankfully that was probably the most sung song I've done in karaoke. So I knew that one like the back of my hand. Now Strong, if I recall correctly, I think that song is written between Lau and N's84, and they sent me that just to see. They wanted some songs for my voice to be on, and they sent me a couple. One didn't quite work, but this Strong did, and so that was their composition, and I had a lot of fun working with it. I ended up being able to work with N's84 later on our song Thunder together, and Runaway, however, that was after me sending several songs to them that didn't make the cut. And so I looked at it as kind of a challenge, like a kind of a salubrious thing where like I could use this to better myself as a writer in this new style. And so I got contacted by some friends around that time to write a jingle for a PSA about encouraging people to wear masks. And so I wrote this really catchy 80s chord progression, and then I wrote a hook about starting off with "Don't Be Another Fool," and there's other things in it. And as a joke, kind of, I just to see what would happen, I sent a phone recording of it to Aztec, and they liked it. And so I rebuilt the song from the ground up to be a Power Rob song, and then brought the MIDI files to the Deep End studio, and then that's how Runaway was created. And so that song has a special place in my heart because when I build a project, we usually always have that first what I call is like a kind of a killer single, like
it definitely is.
And that I wanted that to basically compete. I wanted that to be like the I Fight Time or the Passion Killer for Power Rock. Like Passion Killer was the killer single that ThrillKiller first released, and every time I wrote for that, I wanted to like top Passion Killer. And I Fight Time, it's always been a case of how can we beat I Fight Time. So like I knew that I needed to write a song that like had to set the bar that was so infectious that like the label could not say no. And that because that made it on there and it's done as well as it has, that was like a very satisfying moment for Tony and I, because I wanted to be able to, even if the rest of the album just had me writing my vocal lines, I wanted to have some of the stuff be stuff I wrote organically, everything. And yeah, that's Runaway. Initially, as it was, I only called it Runaway because it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing. I was joking with some friends of mine about how many Runaways there were in synthwave, and so I was like, whatever, call it Runaway. I'll change it later. And I also was a fan of the Bon Jovi Runaway. I was a fan of the Rockwell Runaway. That was the guy that did Somebody's Watching Me. And so I took elements of both of those after I decided, you know what, this hook just sounds good with Runaway in it. And I worked backwards, and it was kind of an homage to songs with that title back in that era. But yeah, totally. Like I did not set out to have another Runaway unless the words just worked very well there.
They certainly do, and I'm so glad you shared all of that about the EP. And we're now going to share our final preview of the podcast from that most recent EP. So without further ado, here is a 45-second clip of Runaway.
Can't go it alone. She's so far from home. She ain't going alone.
Now, we have covered a lot of your music career over the past hour, and with about 5, maybe 10 minutes left in the podcast, I'd love to know a little bit more about you outside of your music career, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I mean, this could be anything, though, too. Like, I mean, we've already established that we both love Dragon Ball Z.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, we could be talk about like favorite TV shows, hobbies, food, anything that you want to share with the audience.
Yeah. So in terms of interests, I grew up, being a gigantic Godzilla nerd. I visit my parents at the moment, and that's where all my Godzilla stuff is collected. And I would not be surprised. There's several $1,000s of figures that are just stored here. I even have an original 1985 poster from the VHS stores of Godzilla 1985.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I went to G-Fest when I was a kid in Chicago. You name it, I was a giant fan of that stuff. I used to be a gigantic fighting game junkie. There used to be kind of a sort of fight club of the music community around here for Smash Brothers, and I used to be. I guess okay. I'm not gonna toot my own horn as a vocalist, but I will toot my own horn as one of the Smash players in the community here. I did have a reputation for being pretty difficult to fight in that. I had a couple rivals, and it was a fun time. We haven't done that in a long time, but I used to put up montages and like clips and stuff of things I would do and that. So yeah, big fighting game fan. I had custom arcade sticks made. Robbie would have me test out the new Megatronics arcade cabinet to make sure it worked right. I used to do live streams of fighting games and a lot of old school Doom. But yeah, that kind of stuff. Ever since the Rex Razor stuff, I got really into fitness a lot more. I was actually at the gym earlier. I was a little annoyed because the mask stuff's being lifted around here, but I used to train pretty hard, and when I used to do that for Rex Razor, it just kind of became a habit, and I'm trying to get back on the wagon now. So I liked a lot of that kind of stuff. I learned a lot about nutrition, the right ways to diet, all that kind of stuff, and I also I moderate a 149,000 member coronavirus group on Facebook, which has been definitely it's been part of this, I guess, year-long saga of trying to fight misinformation and get us over this whole crisis. So that's that. I'm not as active as I used to be, but I used to be pretty active in trying to get the word out about ways to protect yourself against COVID-19 and all that other stuff. But I also I got a cat, and I have a habit of becoming friends with pretty much any cat that I meet.
Well, my cat Nira says hi to your cat.
Hey, my cat Jerry, he's somewhere around. He's just pouty because he and I are both on diets right now.
Oh.
I try to go on one with him.
I'm curious too. You mentioned Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
What's your best character?
It's probably a top 3. Depends on the opponent, but I would say that I started gravitating a little more towards Mario and Ultimate. But in 4, I was much more of a Mega Man player. But my top 3 are probably Mega Man, Mario, Cloud, Snake. Probably top 4. And I have other ones that I play, but those are my top guys depending on who I'm fighting.
I haven't played much of the new one, but I played a little bit of Brawl, and I played Melee was my jam, and Roy was my best character in that one.
Roy, I know Roy's back, and mechanically he plays. He's not he's not really like the way he played in the old games. Like Roy in Melee, as you're probably well aware, was a big Marth clone. I know that Marth in the tier list was a little better than Roy, probably because of the chain grab, and he had the tipper and the length and all that, but they're fundamentally pretty similar. In the new games, they've made Roy, his moveset, they try to differentiate him from Marth, I think because Lucina, Marth's daughter, she is Marth. He's the exact same character down to the hairstyle. So I think they made Roy really different. So if you go back to Roy, just be ready to relearn him, because he's not what he used to be.
I will have to do that. I'm glad for the advice, because I mean, I started off with Marth, but then I started using Roy, and I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the fire element. I don't know. But I felt that Roy was just better than Marth. But I mean, if he has a whole new moveset, well, I guess I have a lot of learning and playing to do.
Yeah, I used to play Marth constantly. He was my favorite guy for years, and mainly because I think I just thought he looked really cool because he had like I'm a big fan of like characters that are like when they're in a fight, they care more about not scuffing up their cool clothes. Like that's what I get, the vibe I got from Marth. It's like Count Dooku, you know, like Dooku became my favorite Sith Lord over the years, because like he didn't allow the Sith stuff to mess up his appearance, you know, and he had like the cool cape, he had the cool boots, he had like the cane, you know, shaped lightsaber. I mean, he was so cool, and he would just talk smack about how bad the player was, or bad the Jedi was against him, and it was like, oh, I like that guy. He's like the king of the Intergalactic Player Haters Club. So like, that's kind of why I like Marth. He just was so just so suave and and like so cool looking, and I didn't realize I picked arguably the 4th best character in the game.
That's awesome, man. I love it. I love talking video games with you. We're gonna have a part 2 podcast where it's just video game talk.
Be a lot of fun.
and Dragon Ball Z.
Oh yeah, I'd be totally down for that.
Sweet, man. Now, before we wrap things up, what is the rest of 2021 looking like for you? I mean, with 3 powerful projects on the go, I can only imagine. I mean, we've heard a little bit of what's to come, but what will be released next?
Up next, I know the most pressing thing is going to be Limit Breaker. Limit Breaker is coming out on August 7th. All I have to do on Limit Breaker at this point is finish the vocals for Final Flash, which is, we already have the studio date booked in June to knock that one out. While that is happening, I am recording songs for the Power Rob debut album. And we don't have a date quite set for ThrillKiller, but we're going in the studio to knock that out. But the only thing with an official release date is going to be Limit Breaker, followed by support shows. We are definitely going to be playing live. Robbie and I are vaccinated. I think that the fall is going to be a pretty safe time for this country. We've been in contact with different venues up and down the East Coast. I also think that perhaps a professional live stream performance of ThrillKiller is not out of the question. We had a great time at Church of the Rock, which is where we did the Power Rob and Megatronics live sets for Retro Future Fest. Power Rob live is still something up in the air for me, just because I don't know how to make it happen. It feels like I'm trying to figure out if it's just backing music and me singing live. I don't quite know that one yet. I'm just so used to working with full bands that I'm still adjusting to that. We got something else between Scott and I are also talking about something else. We can't quite go into details yet about it, but we've had some pretty promising stuff that we're looking into probably 2022. And And yeah, I've got a collab. Man, it's been so much going on. I've got a collaboration with somebody else on my record label that is not part of my album that I will be able to announce sometime in the next probably a few weeks. We got a cool photo set we did for it and everything. See, I've got different Aztec artists I'm collaborating with, and it's just gonna be a lot of releases. So the one with the official date, Limit Breaker, but stay tuned for tons of other things coming out.
Limit Breaker, August 7th, right?
I believe so, but I can pull it up real quick. But I'm pretty confident it is that. Hold on. Yep, it's August 7th. Yep.
Sweet. Everybody look forward to August 7th, and I'm definitely looking forward to August 7th. I can't wait.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
And with that, we'll wrap things up. Thanks so much for spending this time with me, Rob. It was an absolute honor to speak with you. I had a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me.
Could you share your social media with everyone so newcomers know where to purchase your music?
Sure. You can find Power Rob on Bandcamp at powerrob.bandcamp.com. ThrillKiller, thrillkiller.bandcamp.com. Megatronics, same thing, megatronics.bandcamp.com. There's one other thing I did do over the summer if you guys want to check it out. There was a tongue-in-cheek project that I released one song with a mysterious, unnamed synthwave artist named Penetrator. We have a song called Live Fast, Die Hard that came out in June. That is penetrator1984.bandcamp.com. Penetrator is just it's a tremendous amount of fun, and it's got a lot of kind of winks at the synthwave genre. It's a nice way to play around with the style. I can't talk much else about it because I don't know the guy. He just sends me cassette tapes from the future, and I just record over them. So that's penetrator1984.bandcamp.com. And my social, Power Rob Music, Instagram is a good place to find me. You can also use that same title for Facebook. ThrillKiller is ThrillKiller Music. That's Instagram. Megatronics is Megatronics Official Instagram. And for vocal lessons, you can contact me at robbradley.net. I have all my rates up there and recordings of some of my students and all that. But that should be all the major stuff.
Sweet, man. And yeah, just another shout out to your vocal lessons. It was only a half hour, but I definitely want to get back to it. I really enjoyed my time with you.
Thank you. I'm glad you had a good time. It's great working with you.
Well, thank you. And thanks so much. And as usual, you can find all of our socials at SoundCloud under Lotus Moon Productions, Facebook under Lotus Moon Productions, Instagram under Lotus M Productions, Spotify under LMP Music, Twitter under Lotus Moon Prod, and you can search us on YouTube under Lotus Moon Productions. So much social media.
Yeah.
This has been LMP Music. Please be kind to one another, be safe, and with that, we are signing off.